Hi all my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video is Scrap Happy Day, and so we're going to make this Scrap Happy Woodsman Cowl. I just love it. It's super simple to make, and it's a great way to get in your yarn stash and make some fun Christmas gifts or birthday gifts or any kind of gifts. Use up your leftover scrap yarns, use up some of your leftover buttons, and have some really neat presents that you can just have on hand anytime something comes up. It's a great and easy project. We do 2 strands of medium weight number 4 yarn. You can use acrylic, you can use alpaca fibers, you can use wool, whatever that you want to use. I don't recommend cotton just because cotton's not very warm. And this is intended to be a super warm cowl. Now I chose to go with all types of wood colors that you would see in the woods while you're hiking. Browns and shades of greens, some oranges in there, some rusty colors, just whatever I had on hand. Some of them are mottled, some of them are variegated, some are striping yarns, and lots of solids, just whatever I had on hand in those colors that were 100% acrylic yarn. And I really love the way that it turned out. And adding the 2 little button loops with the cute wooden buttons. Of course, y'all know me. I love my wooden buttons. All right, so you can find this complete pattern as always on that blog. And again, as always, I'll put that link down in the notes underneath this video. You can watch the video and look at the written pattern with pictures as well. All right, let's talk about supplies. Now you're going to need approximately 6 ounces of an assortment of medium weight number 4 acrylic yarns. You could use alpaca, you could use wool, any fiber really, but I do not recommend cotton because this is supposed to be a warm cowl that you wear outside in the cold. I love this cowl because I think it makes a great gift. And like I said, we designed it for the guys, but the girls like it too, of course. All right. Now you'll notice that I have some mottled yarn here. I've got some variegated, some solids, and I just used all different colors of what I would consider woodsy colors. Browns, rusts, greens, even some darker grays, darker browns, and different shades that I thought looked woodsy. But of course, you can do this in any colors that you would like. We are going to be holding 2 strands together, and that's what gives it this fun look. It also makes it nice and warm. And that's why you need 6 ounces, even though this is just a 24-inch cowl, because we're using 2 strands of medium weight number 4 yarn. We're going to be stitching today with a J hook, which is a 6mm crochet hook. You're also going to need 2 buttons. Now these are about 1.5 inches across, and I really love using wooden buttons on this type of project, but you could use any buttons that you want. They are somewhat decorative because, you know, on that one side we're going to put them sort of centered out, and then we're going to put those loops over them. And so you need a good sized big button. It doesn't have to be wood, but I really love these. And I bought these in an assortment that had about 12 different buttons that were 2 of several different sizes. And I'm pretty sure I picked these up actually at Walmart. But you can find wooden buttons anywhere that has a fabric department or sells crafts. All right, the other things you're going to need, of course, is a needle to weave in ends and sew on your buttons. And one thing to remember is if you're using a bigger needle, it might not go through those buttonholes. And so you may need a smaller needle because we'll use just 1 strand when we sew on the buttons. All right, you just need to make sure it can get through that hole in your buttons. All right, and of course, lastly, we're going to need a pair of scissors. Now we are, like I said, going to be holding our two strands together. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult because they can get droopy, twisted, and things like that. Now I'm using two colors, so I have them both in my container here that I like to use. And we're just going to like gently pull them as we work like this so that they don't get loopy. Sometimes they do. You just got to get used to working with it. So there's my slip knot. And we're going to chain 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. Now one thing to remember when you're using 2 strands, it may look like you have 2 loops on your hook, but since we're holding those 2 together, that's only 1 loop. All right, we're going to begin by stitching 27 foundation half double crochets. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go in that 3rd loop and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and only go through that 1st loop, and then you'll yarn over and go through those 3 remaining loops. All right, so this down here is the chain that we made. So we're going to yarn over, go in that chain that we made and pull up a loop, yarn over, go through that 1st loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. So the reason we're using a foundation half double crochet is this is going to give us a nice stretchy edge when we go to put the 2 ends together. We're going to be stitching it in a long rectangle and then putting the 2 ends together. All right, so yarn over, go in that chain that we made, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through just that 1st loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. So basically we're stitching our chain and our half double crochet at the same time. We're going to be using half double crochets for most, or if not all, of our cowl. And see how that makes that nice and stretchy? All right, now when you're stitching them, we will count this first chain 2 as our first half double crochet, and then we're going to stitch a total of 27 half double crochets. And remember, this is a foundation half double crochet stitch. I have stitched 27 foundation half double crochets. Remember, our chain 2 at the beginning counts as our first, and then I stitched 26 more, so I have 27. And then we want to chain 1. Here's my last half double crochet foundation, and I'm going to chain 1. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to be working in the back loops only. So when you look at the top of your work, you will see that there is those loops going across. The loops that are facing you are your front loops. These back loops, of course, they're facing away from you, so they're your back loops. Our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we're going to half double crochet in the back loop of that first half double crochet foundation stitch. And we're going to stitch 1 half double crochet in each of the back loops going all the way across. We go in that back loop and stitch a half double crochet on each of our foundation half double crochet stitches. And you'll know that you're stitching in the right spot or in the right loop if you see this little indentation or ridge right there. And it makes it almost appear like we have a little braid on the front of our work. That's exactly what we want it to look like. So 1 back loop only, half double crochet in each of the foundation half double crochets, working all the way across for row 2. And again, you'll see that indentation or ridge and know that you're doing it correctly. I have completed row 2. One thing to remember, we've stitched a half double crochet in each of the stitches, working in the back loops only. But remember, we need to stitch in that chain 2 that counted as our first half double crochet foundation stitch. If not, we'll only have 26 and we need 27 stitches. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain. All right, so now what we're going to do is stitch our half double crochets in our back loops only again. So yarn over, go in that first back loop only, and stitch a half double crochet. And again, we're going to stitch 1 half double crochet in each of the back loops, working all the way across. So 1 half double crochet in each of our back loops, working all the way across our row. We're not adding or subtracting any stitches, and so you need to have 27 half double crochets worked in the back loops only as we work across. Again, you'll notice we have that indentation or ridge on this side, and if you look at the other side, it has that indentation there. All right, so just to repeat, 1 half double crochet in each of the half double crochets across, working in the back loops only. I have completed row 3, 1 half double crochet in each of the back loops only. Again, I have 27 half double crochets. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And what you're going to notice about this project is it's going to look the same on the front and the back as we go, because of the way we are doing all our rows in the back loops only and using these different yarns and the way they work. It's going to make a beautiful cowl, and you can decide when we go to put it together which side you prefer for the front or the back. All right, so let's do row 4. We've chained 1, we've turned, and now we're going to repeat 1 half double crochet. There we go. Working in the back loops only. The most important thing about this project is to be very vigilant at counting your stitches, because you want to make sure that you always have 27 half double crochets on each row. If you get off by 1 or 2, it's going to make it go up some, because we're really stitching this direction. We're going to be making a long tube, and then we're going to put those 2 ends together. All right, so make sure every row has 27 half double crochets. Once you get going, this is a super duper easy project, and it also makes a lot of really nice gifts. Like I said, it's a great way to get in that yarn stash and whip up some Christmas gifts with your leftover yarns. You could do them in people's favorite colors. And again, even though I designed this for the guys, the girls like them too. All right, so I'm just going to continue across, stitching 1 half double crochet in each of my back loops only. I have completed that 4th row, and I want you to see how we have those braids sort of that look across here with an indentation here. And then when we chain one and turn, you can see we have the indentations here with those braids looking stitches across. And that's exactly the way we want it to look. All right, let's do 2 more rows real quick, and then I want to talk to you about how to join in yarns when you have 2 different strands. Sometimes they don't end in the same spot. All right, so let's do 2 more rows real quick. Remember, our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain. And then we're going to stitch 1/2 double crochet in each of those back loops across, making sure we have 27 half double crochet stitches. We'll chain 1 and turn and repeat. I stitched those 2 additional rows, 1/2 double crochet in each of the back loops across, and you can see how it makes those nice rows whether you're on the front or the back. All right, so what I wanted to show you real quick before we go on is how to join in a new color. When you're using 2 strands of yarn, your yarn might not end at the same time. And so I'm going to show you what you can do. I've got another strand here. And you're going to need your needle. And this people call the Russian join. I learned it as just the join. All right, so we're going to thread one of the ends of the yarn on your needle. We're going to put our thumb here to make a loop, and then we're going to go in and out that yarn a couple of times. I usually do 2 or 3. All right, and we'll just pull this through. There we go. So now we've made a loop. We're going to set that down. We're going to grab our other end of the needle, or other end of yarn, not needle. We're going to go in that loop. All right. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use our thumb to make a loop, and then we're going to stitch in and out of the thread on this side. This is a really simple technique that I love to use, especially when I'm doing something like this where I have 2 strands that are not going to end at the same time. All right, so now we have those. We're just going to gently pull on that, make sure there aren't any knots, and then we're going to grab those ends and gently pull on those and bring those together. Now, a lot of times I'll trim those down a little bit, but not very much, because we're going to stitch right over those. My needle over there. All right, so we'll start the next row. We've already chained 1 and turned. All right, so I'm just going to continue with my half double crochets, working in the back loops only. And here comes that join that I did. Some more green yarn out here. And I really like using this join because I think it just moves right along nicely. All right, so I want that to go out flat like this. And we'll just continue along with our stitching. Now, you will have some edges that stick out. Whoops, I missed my second loop there. There we go. All right, so once I'm past it for 3 or 4 stitches, there we go, I'll go ahead and sort of pull those and clip them off, and I'm done. I don't have to come back and weave it in. It's all taken care of. And I like to do it this way, like I said, especially when I'm using more than 1 strand of yarn. And if you're doing a project that has 3 or 4 strands, you'll probably do it more often. All right, and so that's the way I like to do that join. I think it's very helpful, and I think it leaves a really nice appearance on our project. So now what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 6 for 36 more rows, and that'll get you a total of 42 rows, and that will get you approximately a 24-inch cowl. But if you're making this for someone that maybe wants it a little looser, you can do more rows. Or someone who wants it maybe a little tighter, maybe for a child, then you can do less rows. Just grab your tape measure, measure as you go, and just do as many rows as you need for the size that you're making. Now, I'm going to do 36 additional rows so that I'll have approximately a 24-inch cowl. So here is the actual cowl. The other one, of course, was our demo, and this is the one that I made. We have 42 rows, and this is going to get you approximately a 24-inch cowl. Now, it looks the same on the front as it does the back, and so you need to decide which is your front and which is your back of your cowl. All right? And now what we're going to do is we're going to put the two ends together. Alrighty. So here's where I ended. I'm going to put my two together. I'm going to come across over here in this stitch, pull up a loop, and now we're all joined together. And again, it's up to you which side you want as your front. It basically looks the same because of the way we turned our rows. All right, now we're going to slip stitch in the first 15 stitches. All right, we're just going to go across and slip stitch. There's 2, 3, 4, and remember not to pull this too tight because you don't want the edge to be puckered up. All right, I've lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. We'll go ahead and chain one and take a look at this. Now, what we've done is we've only slip stitched in the first 15 stitches, and we've left the bottom open. All right? We will need to weave this end in, but we're not going to do it just yet because we're going to be turning back up and making our button loops. I chained one. I'm going to turn my work, and we're going to slip stitch in the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I did not stitch through both sides, only on that one side, okay? Now I'm going to chain 18 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, that's my button loop. All right, so I'm going to stitch in the next stitch and stitch a slip stitch, and then I'll stitch 4 more. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll stitch 18 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Then we'll come back and we'll stitch in those last 5 stitches. 1, 2, whoops, I think I went in the wrong stitch. I went in the same stitch. All right, gotta fix that. I went into the same stitch. I needed to do the next stitch. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so we're going to cut our yarn. You can see we have 2 nice size button loops. And we're going to take a minute first and weave in our ends. I grabbed my needle with my bigger eye opening in it, and I'll put both my threads through there. Sometimes if I'm doing 3 or 4, I'll do the yarns one at a time. But this one I'm not, since it's just 2 strands. And I'm going to go to the inside of my work so that I'm weaving it in on the inside where it won't be seen. Going back and forth. And this one's real important because you want to make sure it's good and sturdy because we've got those buttons we're going to be putting on. Alrighty. And before I sew on those buttons, I'm going to go ahead and weave this end in, and then I'll show you how to add those buttons. So the last thing we need to do is add those buttons. All right, so here's my button loops, and you'll notice they're on this side, and you want to kind of pull them across this way so it gives the appearance that we're holding it shut, even though it's already stitched shut. Okay, and so you want to place your buttons. And we'll go. I actually like to make a loop first. Let's do that. To me, it just shows me where to put it in, helps it stay a little sturdier. And this one I'm going to do some cross stitches instead of straight across, just for fun. And even though this is decorative, it's going to get pulled a little because of the loop. And so you want to make sure you put quite a few stitches on there. And the color of the yarn doesn't matter. Just make sure that it matches what you got going on. All right, then we'll turn it over. I'm going to grab my hook and pull this thread through so it's to the back of my work. There we go. Give them both a nice good pull. We'll do 2 like that. I'll take that needle off of there. Then we'll do that knot that I like to do. I think it holds it nice and secure. Alrighty. And then we've got one of them looped over. Alright, now I'm going to do the other one right here. I've got my second button on, so we're going to put our second loop on. And it's intended to sit over to the side so that this sort of sits across the shoulder open. And I really love how it turned out. I can't wait to give it to somebody, maybe my son-in-law, for a gift. Isn't it beautiful? And just think of all the color possibilities and button possibilities that you could make with your leftover yarns and make lots of wonderful gifts for your family and friends. So that's our Woodsman Scrap Happy Cowl.